also want to apologize to you, Stephanie, for saying I would call you out for ghosting me. You know, plans change. It happens. Looking back, the way I treated you, the way I responded to you was not okay. Like I said, I was caught up in trying to get juicy content for my channel that I wasn't being considerate of how I was making you feel. You didn't deserve that, and I am sorry. And there's something that I've never actually shared with anyone until now. That situation with Stephanie changed me. It made me take a hard look at myself, how I was using my platform, how I was creating content.
Nick says after this drama, his content really did.
Honestly, his apology isn't really that bad. Like, yo, I'm not even gonna hold you like on the tip of whether you think like he's actually being genuine to that degree, if he actually feels remorseful. That's up for you to decide. But at least from what I'm seeing, this apology, keeping it pretty concise. He's apologizing for obviously the way he addressed her and the way he handled the Johns. Like, he's keeping it pretty consistent. So not bad on his factor. I'm not gonna lie. Finally, an apology that isn't complete dog water. Holy. Like, safe to say, this one right here, for the babes. I ain't gonna lie. But you've seen title and thumbnail. Now, we've covered some John with Miss Stephanie Sue going on recently. Her whole John, obviously, she's covering the whole Diddy case. She's been there in person and getting her 79 pages in. You already know how that goes. Whole 8-hour shift she's sitting there, you know what I'm saying? She putting in work, and obviously within that, Diddy apparently knows who she is and all that type of jazz, except as ain't worry about Diddy. He need to worry about this case he got going on. All these baby on he got. I ain't gonna lie. Anyway, sideboarding that. Yeah, apparently Miss Stephanie Sue has been getting into some more drama, or at least someone has been getting her into drama, because apparently Nikocado Avacado, if you don't know, 2 steps ahead, apparently is rehashing or relitigating some of the beef that they had in the past. So of course, Trilly gonna be here to see that boy. So let's not waste no more time. Trilly talks everything. Trilly does indeed yap everything every single time. Let's get right into it. You already know. Shout out the lover babes, the Hun, Miss Spill Sesh. We got Nikocado Avacado exposes Stephanie Sue. Of course, you guys want to watch the original video? Down in the description and first link. Share the love with Miss Spill Sesh. And let's go. Let's get into it. We got to see what's going on here, baby. I got to see what's happening.
Do you guys remember the drama that went down between Stephanie Sue and Nikocado Avacado? It was a huge deal back in 2019, and well, Nick is bringing it up again, exposing Stephanie for things that went down during that time, and a lot of people in Nick's comments are like, whoa, this is actually kind of crazy to look back at what happened in 2025. So we're going to get into what Nick had to say about Stephanie that some people in Nick's comments feel make her not look so great. But we're going to break down everything, including what went down back then if you don't remember. I didn't think we would be talking about Stephanie Sue again, at least not in this way, with her covering the Diddy trial and not
everything going on with the Diddy trial, the Diddy case.
Really doing mukbangs anymore. I just didn't think that we would be hearing about mukbang drama again, but I don't know if all of this stuff
thought it was in the past, but guess it got relitigated like we said in the intro.
Talk has gotten Nick to decide that he finally wanted to speak out about something, but a couple days ago, Nikocado Avacado posted a 30+ minute video exposing Stephanie Sue. The two were in drama a couple years ago, and well, he wanted to set the record straight on what he says actually went down during that time. And he wasn't just calling her out, he was also taking accountability for some things too, but there were a lot of things that he wanted to bring to light. To break down what we know about up until this point is that this is what happened. Back in December 2019, Stephanie and Nick filmed a mukbang video together along with another creator, Zach Choi. During filming, Nick allegedly pressured Stephanie to speak on past drama involving another YouTuber, Veronica Wang, something Stephanie wasn't comfortable doing.
She did. The girly pop was not trying to extrapolate on that. Yep.
She later said she felt manipulated and ambushed by Nick, which triggered anxiety and led to her canceling a follow-up shoot that they had planned. After Stephanie backed out of filming again, Nick became upset and began texting her, and Stephanie later says that the messages were just overwhelming and she felt like they were invasive, especially when she was already experiencing panic attacks. She also claimed that Nick took unauthorized photos inside of her home, including of her security.
Yeah, I remember that, like of the security cams and all that type of jazz, and I was at the time like, yo, that's looking a bit off. A little bit.
Security system, something that she saw as a major breach of trust and privacy. On December 21st, Stephanie uploaded a video titled "Why I Am Scared of Nikocado Avacado," where she publicly
definitely remember this.
Addressed the situation. It went viral, and today it has 17 million views. She accused Nick of manipulation, bullying, and behavior that deeply affected her mental health. In response, Nick released his own video called My Response to Stephanie Sue. And in this, he denied so many of Stephanie's claims, where he said that she had given him permission to take photos in her house and argued that she was using the situation for attention. He portrayed himself as the one being unfairly attacked and claimed that Stephanie was lying about key parts of the story. Stephanie then
leaving out some of the context,
uploaded another video called How Nikocado Manipulated All of Us, where she provided screenshots of texts and behind the scenes footage to back up her side of the story. Many fans and creators, including Zach Choi, sided with Stephanie and distanced themselves from Nick. Now, in 2021, Nick actually gave an interview to Mel magazine where he claimed the entire feud had been scripted. They wrote, ever
See, but that's the thing, it always leads back to it, like, for me, why script some of these dramas? Because either, like, within this, like, either side has to take a hit. Like, it's gonna be negative press or negative PR on somebody's side, so what's even the point of doing all this? Because, yo, on the person's side who's getting the hate and or the backlash, yo, yeah, you gain viewers per se, but these are bulls hating on you. So that's why I never go for that. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to do this type of jazz. But some heads still end up doing it.
Since Perry has continued to learn how to use conflict as currency. In 2019, fellow mukbanger Stephanie Sue accused him of emotional manipulation during a collaboration video, posting videos like Why I Am Scared of Nikocado Avacado and How Nikocado Manipulated All of Us to YouTube. At the time, Sue raised the alarm after Perry encouraged her to gossip about another YouTuber. Perry tells me, however, that the entire feud was orchestrated to benefit both his career and Sue's.
It just doesn't make any sense. A side gets backlash. How does that benefit the career? How would it benefit both? It wouldn't. What?
I reached out to Sue for comment, but didn't receive a reply. We both knew that this would be the best thing for our careers, he said.
It would not. It clearly wasn't, because obviously, at least on Stephanie Sue's side, she got major backlash for the way that she was doing the mukbangs and all that type of jazz, just in a general sense. So obviously, going in through another drama and all this, and or finding out that it was orchestrated, doing this with Nikocado Avacado, it only makes her John worse. I don't understand why. How would that be a best thing for both? Yeah, that's so stupid. Yeah, but clearly, obviously, seeing in hindsight, yeah, I don't think that was the best thing for both careers, because clearly, on both sides, being Stephanie Sue and Nikocado Avacado, they got backlash, so,
says, both of us got our names further out there than we ever thought possible.
But getting that through hate is not good. This is what I always talk about, building like a genuine audience and like being genuine with your audience, because that's what they want to see. They don't want to see these Lala City Syndrome manufactured dramas. It's literally skinwalker bullshittery, like I talk about all the time. Like, no one wants to see that, John. Just be yourselves. That's what heads followed you for.
He describes the debacle as an opportunity to add on to his role as the villain.
You never want to be the villain. I do not like some in some situations or whatever, like how the situation that Ethan is in right now. He is at least labeled by Hassan's community and Denim's case, Citron, Frogan, their heads, bro, as the villain in all that case. But in that role as the villain, like obviously if you're looking at it objectively, like what he's doing, he's in the right. Like he's clear for that. So like, yo, you could say the villain in that standpoint, but obviously it's not looking objectively like terrible on your end. Like obviously you're doing something right, well within your means, at least in Ethan's case. But in this, John, now you do not want to play the villain in terms of like, yeah, now everybody hates you and it's because you deliberately do bad Johns, like skinwalkering, manufacturing fake dramas. You do not want to do that.
Although he adds that he and Sue are no longer on speaking terms. I've taken the path of a train wreck because I know what sells, he says.
But that's not good. And this is the thing that heads have been saying about Nikocado Avacado for the longest time. Obviously, with him losing all the weight in the 2 steps ahead, we can all shout out, be proud of him for that. Because obviously shedding all that weight, like, yo, that's a feat in itself. Like, yo, that's amazing that he was able to do that. But I don't understand the train wreck part, the crash out part, the clip farming part, like that, John. Like, obviously it is gonna get. But no. That joke scared me. I'm not gonna lie. Like, obviously it is going to get views, but like, yo, this is not the like rage baiting, hate baiting like views that you want. Like, the hate watchers is definitely not where it's at.
That's what keeps people's attention. They like the show. I'm willing to be that villain because I know it will keep people talking. To that end, there's an entire cottage industry devoted to Nicocado's cringe compilations. But now, all these years later, Nick has brought the situation back up, and he says he wants to hold Stephanie accountable for the way that she painted him out in this situation. In the first part of Nick's video, he took accountability for his wrongdoings in their fallout, saying that he fed into a lot of drama at the time, and clearly Stephanie didn't want anything to do with that.
I wanted Stephanie Sue to...
Well, yeah, because if you keep playing into drama like how some of these other heads and dramas are doing, yeah, it doesn't really result good for you. It just becomes a snowball effect, which leads into an avalanche, which leads into I may be canceled. This drama maybe have ruined my career.
Sit down and gossip with me in one of these types of videos to spill the tea about drama happening in our mukbang community.
Nick said it very assertively. We're going to talk about Veronica and we're going to spill all the tea. I freaked out, and again, I wanted to defend myself by sharing my story, which is I think what he wanted.
And that made her uncomfortable. I clearly didn't pick up on that well enough, and that was my first mistake. And then as a result, she didn't show up to one of her collabs and gave me what I perceived at the time to be a flimsy excuse. So I reacted poorly. I sent her angry text messages, I vented about it with my friends, and I made it pretty clear that I was going to bring up the situation in my next drama video.
I'm this effing close to making an video.
That was the core of what happened between us. And that was 100% my fault.
I could totally like understand the factor of like Nick on 72's side, like, dang, it seems like she just like, yo, threw this all away, like, what the heck, yo, we had this show on plan. But yeah, it's even still, like he's saying, and he's admitted to it right now, like, yeah, he definitely could have handled the situation a bit better, definitely came more cordial and amicable with the Johns. Not to say that obviously during the time that there wasn't anything Miss Stephanie Sue could be criticized for, because obviously we covered it in one of Miss Coco's craziest videos, like going over a little bit of Stephanie Sue's backstory. Like, yeah, during that time there's things you'd be criticized for too, but within this specific situation, like, yo, Miss Stephanie Sue, he's got some mental Johns going on, she's feeling anxiety, all this jazz, like, yo, obviously hard Johns, obviously going through like mental, yo, you want to be ease on these people, obviously, but you're still wanting to get the, yo, I keep saying, obviously, I keep switching on my words. I know how Trilly can't grandma, Trilly can't form a sentence for shit. But like on that case, like, yeah, my main thing is that like yeah, obviously that situation could have been handled better, especially on the side of Nikocado Avacado, because like you said, yeah, he may have crashed out a little bit. Like he probably could have kept it cordial and amicable, like I said, at least a bit more.
I was immature, I was unkind, I was unprofessional, I was childish, I was wrong. Stephanie, I am genuinely sorry. You were not obligated to sit and gossip with me on camera. You didn't owe me that. And I was totally out of line for reacting the way I did when you didn't show up to film. I was too wrapped up in trying to get juicy content for my channel. I clearly lacked the maturity to handle the situation the right way. I also want to apologize to you, Stephanie, for saying I would call you out for ghosting me. You know, plans change. It happens. Looking back, the way I treated you, the way I responded to you was not okay. Like I said, I was caught up in trying to get juicy content for my channel that I wasn't being considerate of how I was making you feel. You didn't deserve that, and I am sorry. And there's something that I've never actually shared with anyone until now. That situation with Stephanie changed me. It made me take a hard look at myself, how I was using my platform, how I was creating content.
Nick says after this drama, his content really did...
Honestly, his apology isn't really that bad. Like, yo, I'm not even going to hold you, like, on the tip of whether you think, like, he's actually being genuine to that degree, if he actually feels remorseful. That's up for you to decide. But at least from what I'm seeing, this apology, keeping it pretty concise. He's apologizing for, obviously, the way he addressed her and the way he handled the Johns. Like, he's keeping it pretty consistent, so... not bad on his factor, I'm not gonna lie. Finally, an apology that isn't complete dog water. Holy, like, but yeah, no, on Nick's effort, like, yeah, no, this isn't too bad of an apology. On this factor, it doesn't seem like it's totally disingenuous, like, so that can be appreciated.
Change, and he was just putting on this solo drama show that didn't really have to involve talking about other people. Yeah, he would throw some shade here and there, but it was mainly about himself. But then he says there's things that she needs to be held accountable for, saying that she weaponized the Me Too movement to destroy his reputation.
Two things can be true at the same time. Yes, I was wrong to egg on drama during my collab with Stephanie. Yes, I was out of line for getting upset over text. And yes, venting about it on social media wasn't okay either. But what happened next didn't feel like a response. It felt like a preemptive strike. You see, before we filmed together, Stephanie wasn't exactly the persona many knew her as. Off camera, she talked poorly about other creators in our community. It was bad. She wasn't actually that shy about throwing shade. And to be honest, that's okay. A lot of YouTubers have a more professional front for the camera and then a more relaxed, candid one off camera. That's just real life. I don't fault her for that. But when our collab fell apart, she panicked. She knew I was upset. She knew she said things that she didn't want going public. So before I could say anything, she got ahead of the story and she rewrote the story. Stephanie opened her video about me with what looked like security footage. Her shaking on a couch, visibly distressed, with someone holding onto her. It was dramatic, it was intense, and for the millions of people unfamiliar with either of us at the time, it planted a powerful impression that the person in that footage was me, and where she wouldn't clarify who the man was until 30 minutes into the video, when many people had already clicked out. From there, she invoked language and imagery that directly echoed the Me, a movement created to support the survivors of and
In and out of sleep.
in and out of sleep. Full Me
Hashtag you.
She repurposed the emotional weight of that cultural reckoning and redirected it at me. Not only did this lend her story immediate credibility, but it also cast me in the role of a within the first 10 seconds, before even having to say it directly. That movement isn't for you to use as a prop. It's not a storytelling device for dramatic.
Well, I would imagine, obviously, if the movement itself is obviously in a way to bring light to people who have been under sexual assault and things of such like that, then obviously it shouldn't just be used like just around like as just some buzz John, like, oh yeah, me too, up there John, definitely. But within this John, like, yo, want to see a little bit more of the context, especially like relitigating this, going back, because it's like, is it like, was she saying this all the time, like referencing this all the time, especially like in a way where you could see it's clear her being disingenuous when using this jazz, or was it just like selective time? See, that's where the question I'm at right now.
Effect. It's not meant to be used as emotional currency.
He goes on to talk even more about her reaction to their friendship fallout and the fact that she was uncomfortable while filming a collab with him and how she painted him out.
I feel like I've been inflated by fear that I can't say no to him. I just want to take back my power to say no. I think when someone shows me a pattern of predatory behavior, I'm not going to not listen. Hashtag too. And feeling.
See, that's the case, like, where even looking back on this and really getting, I do disagree with Stephanie on that. I definitely feel like she could have 100% said nah, because that's just within her, right? Like, yo, if I don't want to talk about this bull, not talk about it. Stamped in. Like, yo, I'm not, that's what it is.
Framing our fallout with references like that shifts how people understand it. She said that my interaction with her was at a similar degree to when she was
and the only way that I've ever felt like this to any degree in my life prior to Nick, it was one where I felt shit. I was in my own home. Felt like no, really didn't have a lot of power.
Stephanie literally co-opted the me to intensify.
Yeah, within this, obviously, again, like relitigating, looking back at this, within that was her situation with Nikocado Avacado as traumatic as, like, obviously her situation where she was directly physically sexually assaulted. In most cases, most people would say no. So making that comparison, you know what I mean? Obviously not as apt, but even still within this, like, you could obviously clearly say she was under duress and like under struggle, but that does not obviously justify her saying and making the claim like, yo, this John was like almost like the same feeling as this last time. Like, obviously there's distinction. That's not taken away from her when obviously her situation really did happen. Like, just to try to downplay or mitigate that, obviously it's terrible. Duh. You should not want nothing happening to nobody, especially not the girly pops. Like, yo, show me respect on the base. That's facts. But still, to that factor, like, obviously making that comparison, not as apt per se. So I could feel Nick on that.
And distort the nature of our conflict that was at its core about gossiping on camera, canceling a collab, and venting about it through texts. She used dark imagery to connect us to a serious cause.
I think when someone shows me a pattern of I told myself I would never, ever feel like that again.
And I'm sorry, that's a terrible thing to do to a person. And I'm not saying that Stephanie didn't feel uneasy or that she wasn't allowed to set her own boundaries. Of course she was.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Like, obviously, if she felt under duress, like, she obviously is allowed to feel like that. Like, this is just human response to certain scenarios and situations going on. Obviously, she can and is allowed to feel like under duress in that situation. But obviously, making the comparison, like I said, literally like a minute ago, comparing this situation and then like a situation in which she really went through, which is extra traumatic, not as apt.
But there's a major difference between being uncomfortable with gossiping on camera and equating that to serious, life-altering violations of
it. And that's what I'm saying. I would agree. Like, there is definitely a distinction between those, heftily.
In Stephanie's video, she said that she told Nick that she had been SA'd previously, which Nick claimed was not true. He said when she told him that she had been in and out of sleep when they were supposed to collab, he said he took that and ran with it. It was never supposed to be a dig at her being SA'd because he says he was never told that that happened to her, and says he was only making jokes about in and out of sleep because he was mad she canceled their collab and that was her excuse. He admits that he shouldn't have thrown shade at her publicly, but he was just upset. Nick says people then tied the whole in and out of sleep phrase into Nick mocking Stephanie's trauma.
I got things to do. I got things to do. Have you been in and out of sleep?
In and out of sleep. Oh my gosh. In and out of sleep right now.
And so I was mocking her excuse. But Stephanie, who was afraid I might speak up about what really happened or the things she told me off camera, got ahead of the story and repackaged that moment into something it never was. And then thousands of people made emotional interpretations linking the in and out of sleep thing to her trauma history, concluding that I had been mocking a survivor, and that's what hurt the most.
Yeah, obviously, like within that, obviously narrative shouldn't be misconstrued. Now, at a base level, should Nick still have been making fun of the situation at all? No, but clearly, as we've seen, like you said, he was crashing out, he was tight within all that, so events happen. But obviously, having it go to where it misconstrues into where you're basically saying, yo, Nick is like propagating this whole John of where like, yo, he's propagating this scenario in which Stephanie Sue was, saying sexual assault. They're like, nope. Let's chillax. That's not what was happening. Obviously, this happening to Stephanie Sue is terrible, and you do not want that to happen to the babes. We also can't lie and say that this is the thing that Nikocado Avacado is putting out when it's not. Now, was he still saying some bad John? Yes, but was it that? No. I'm like,
not just being misunderstood, but being deliberately misrepresented.
He also talks about her demeanor in the video, accusing her of being fake.
But Stephanie didn't just rely on her words to sell this story. She relied on performance. The trembling voice, the sudden tone shifts, even moments where she appeared to cry, only for the emotion to vanish seconds later. It just all felt calculated, like a script meant to feel raw without actually being raw. And once you see it for what it is, it's hard to unsee.
Is there anything else you'd like to say? And I just remember feeling so gutted. Like my heart had dropped to the ground because I thought it was going to be another interrogation.
That's performative. Real emotion is messy. It shows up physically on the body.
He also says that there was just no signs of her being distressed in this video.
At the end of the video, when we were wrapping up and saying our goodbyes, asking our viewers to subscribe, I turned to her and I asked, is there anything else you'd like to say?
What'd you like to say?
Stephanie,
it's like ASMR.
you took this out of context
Yeah, they were doing a lot of ASMR things. Yeah.
and distorted it to make me sound way worse, with dramatic zoom-ins and everything.
Nick turned to me and he said, is there anything else you'd like to say? And I just remember feeling so gutted. Like my heart had dropped to the ground because I thought it was going to be another interrogation.
What'd you like to say?
Thank you for watching us. And so
Your heart dropped to the ground. We were saying goodbye. So now I'm going to show you the real version that she edited out. In fact, watch her hand movements toward the end, where it seems as if she wanted to say something before closing out the video.
I'll be the one to take a look-see.
Thank you. Wait. What do we do now? Goodbye. She's playing the flute. What'd you like to say?
thank you for watching us eat these. We love you. This is the new filet mignons.
The filet mignons.
Oh my god, the ASMR is getting me mad.
Bye, everyone.
She also claimed she had made it apparent how uncomfortable.
I don't know. The thing she was doing with her hands, it doesn't really give me no off signs. I don't know. Like, maybe that could be, like, used as a thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting psyoped here. Shirley's not looking deep enough. But I don't know. Like, the mannerisms don't really give me, like, that factor. So, I guess I'll cut that one out.
She really was.
In the video, there's no way Nick did not know that I was so uncomfortable for those 30 minutes.
Really.
He knew. There's no way he didn't know I was uncomfortable.
Would you have gathered she was experiencing utter distress?
That's what I'm saying. Like, not to the heftiest degree. So that's what I'm saying. On that factor, I can kind of feel Nick, where it's like it doesn't look like Stephanie Sue, at least during this moment, but way back when, was that under duress. But obviously, like, yo, you're on cam, and like he even said himself, you may play it up different. You're on cam, you're acting more professional, and then like off cam, that's when obviously your emotions really start to pour out or whatever. But like, yeah, or at least on cam right here, yeah, I'm not really seeing that much duress come from Stephanie Sue.
He also addressed why he was taking photos of her home.
Stephanie and I talked a little bit about...
Yeah, I'm about to say a little bit more conjecture on this, because I remember when first seeing this was something I was like, yo, man, might be a little off.
Interior design. She had recently bought her home, and I was looking to renovate mine. She gave me a house tour of her place upon arrival, and we had what seemed like very nice conversations about lighting layouts, appliances, security features, the usual when you talk about home projects. During much of this conversation, we were in the kitchen, which was a shared, open concept space. I was taking photos of different elements that she was pointing out. I was also on FaceTime with Orland, sharing the ideas in real time. This isn't the most flattering screenshot of Stephanie. The point is, she knew I was taking photos. She was there, she was participating in the conversation, and actively involved in showing me around. Nothing about it was hidden. She said she didn't know why I was taking photos of her house.
And then immediately he started looking around at the ceiling. I didn't have any cool light fixtures up there. I just don't know what else would be up there other than security cameras.
She also mentioned that after briefly leaving the room, she saw me on her kitchen security.
So he was on FaceTime with his, you know what I'm saying, with his boyfriend during the time, like showing him around, like the different like furniture and all the different amenities that Stephanie Sue has. And from there on, that's what he's like showing it up. And then so what she's saying, at least coming off of that, is that he was looking at security cams. What he's saying is that he was just looking at like the light fixtures and Jones like that just to show, you know what I'm saying, his boyfriend. So, interesting. Who misconstrued? I guess we'll have to keep watching.
Camera taking photos.
And during that time that I slipped away to the restroom very, very quickly, the one time that I did, without letting me know what he was doing, he took multiple pictures inside my house. Seeing that footage was shattering.
This is where things get more nuanced. I can actually understand that having someone take photos when you're not in the room can feel uncomfortable. Truthfully, I wasn't trying to cross a boundary, because in my...
Yeah, I could understand that, because it's like, yo, especially like if this is not one of your like your main mans or whatever that be around or whatever, it's like, yo, they're obviously collaborators, but more or less to that. And I talk about this all the time, yo, when you see two content creators collab, yo, don't think, yo, just because you got the parasocial connection in them or whatever, that these heads are best friends. Most heads just be acquaintances on the jump. They know what they came here for. Me make content with you, you make content with me, we combine audiences, good for optics, you know what I'm saying? So I would imagine that's where they were at. They were like on the acquaintance tip. So yeah, that would be a bit weird if she's not in the room. So obviously Nick is saying that that not misconstruction, he is disseminating that right now. So yeah, that is something where obviously you could see where that would go.
In my mind, I saw it as a continuation of taking the photos we had been taking together thus far. I never left the common area. I didn't go...
So that's where the nuance happens and the split happens. So it's like, in his mind, it's like, oh yeah, and I was still like, what's the name, showing the house and all that. I was still trying to like show the amenities so his boyfriend Orland could see or whatever. And meanwhile, she was like, yo, why are you still doing this? It's a bit weird, yo, I'm not even in the room. So yeah, I could see where that split happens. All right. Oh, okay. Don't know how to stay full screen.
Looking around the house, I stayed right there and continued to take photos of the things we were talking about while she stepped out of the room. Looking back, I realized I was at fault with this part. I was too presumptive. We didn't know each other like that.
Nick says that he...
And that's more or less the play off of what I was talking about earlier, where yeah, they were more on the acquaintance tip. So obviously they're not as close as like her and her best mans would be, or like, you know what I'm saying, her best girly pop or anything like that. You know what I mean? Nick going and doing this, John, especially while she's not in the room, would obviously give you more of that tee off, like, yo, wait, huh? I don't know about this. What is this fool doing? But then at the same time, I would also argue against Stephanie Sue in that case, because it's like, yo, you already were like showing them around, showing them the different things in the house, you know what I'm saying? So like, if he was still doing that while you took a step out, I mean, like, that to me that wouldn't seem weird, but I guess like to her, wasn't too koosh.
Just wants to tell his truth of all of this and just wanted to put it out there just so he can move on. And he ultimately apologizes to Stephanie for trying to pull her into drama, but hopes Stephanie can apologize for exaggerating the truth, he says. I do think it's interesting that Nick did give that interview prior to all of this, saying that they were both kind of in on this plan to be in calculated drama.
Yeah, because that part like throws me off. It's like kind of weird about that, because you were saying like back in the John, which he acknowledges now, like, oh yeah, he was hungry clout farming and all this type of jazz, but you're already going in the notion of like trying to be the villain and like trying to go for like I guess the worst optical looking John, because that will get a lot of views considering it's not looking too good.
I don't know if he was just trying
Negativity is always the John that prevails on the algorithm.
to save face in that interview without trying to get into it even more, but a lot of people after seeing Nick's video are very much on his side and feel like he really clocked some things that Stephanie showed and said in her video. And people said, I'm a big fan of Rotten Mango and I love her podcast, so I came to this video with bias. I'll be honest, I watched the entire video and I think Stephanie really made some big mistakes here.
Yeah, you could argue that in this situation. I could definitely agree with that.
I can't think of any reason why she would lie about the ASMR video like that, other than to manipulate how people felt about Nick. I also think all the clips Nick showed of her acting were very convincing. That's not genuine at all. It's just not. I'm honestly so disappointed in her, and I'm honestly reconsidering my support to her. The part where,
which in the fan opinion, that's all totally justifiable on Nate John. Like, yo, if that's how you're feeling and I'm gonna go off of this, sure. I just think, obviously, even like Nick said, there's way more nuances to this. So to see exactly, like, you know what I'm saying, who is right and wrong in this situation, obviously there's way more info heads we're going to need. But at least with the Jones we're seeing, it does look a little hypocritical on Stephanie Sue's part. But then I also lead back on Nick to where, like, yeah, within back then, yo, the way you handled the situation wasn't too good either. Plus, you're running out with this narrative, at least then, that, yo, it would be better for both our careers, y'all. Play the villain, do this bad, John. Like, it's looking skinwalkery on both sides. It's like
where she cut out the clip of her laughing and chewing to make it seem like she was terrified is so disgusting. This is the most genuine apology video I've ever seen on YouTube. Validation of her emotions while still pointing out the false picture she tried to push you to be, because I'm sure we all can agree.
And that's what I was saying with Nick's John. Like, honestly, he kept it concise, yo. He addressed, obviously, what he needed to apologize for, the things that were hit criticism for him. He obviously, within the situation and how he handled the text messages with Stephanie Sue, yo, he's apologizing for that as well. Like, straight up, he owns the fact that, yo, he could have handled that situation better. So, yeah, his apology is good. On that factor, yeah.
When we saw her video, it seemed way worse than it actually is now with the full picture. You took great accountability for your actions and your actions alone, and not the ones she tried to paint you as. I can't wait to see more of your growth on this platform and see if she will actually own up her faults and be the bigger person, but if not, then you have the right path by getting this off your chest and moving on. Overall, good job, man. So who knows if she will be responding, but that is what Nick had to say in this video and how people have been reacting to it. I certainly want to know what you guys think about all of this in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye, guys.
You feel? You already know. Shout out the Huns, the lover babe, Miss Bill Sesh. Already know how that gets down. Share the love, baby. We got Nikocado Avacado exposes Stephanie Sue. Of course, if you guys want to watch the OG original video, down in the description, first link, share the love, like I said, with Miss Bill Sesh. But yeah, final opinions and conjecture. I think on the situation, obviously, it's good that Nick came out and apologized for, obviously, the prior actions that happened within their drama and beef that happened in 2019. It's good that he addressed those things and obviously takes fault and is remorseful of the, you know, actions that happened. Within that, that's obviously great. Like, yo, this is what I be saying all the time with patterns of behavior, and like, yo, acknowledge your mistakes and all that. Build up off of that, become a better person going on in the future. And that's what I'm presuming Nick is trying to do as an overall too, because you already know, you see, weight loss gain, sure, is great. I already know. But on the factor of the stuff with Stephanie Sue, yeah, now some of the Johns do look weird, but at the same time, I do gotta question it, because also while some of the Johns, like, yo, it does point out general hypocrisy within some of the things that Stephanie Sue was saying during the time, I also gotta ask Nick more questions, because it's like, yo, you were saying at the time I was playing the villain, now, which he addressed that and I was like, apologize for that, trying to go too crazy farming and all that, but wouldn't you also agree to that factor, like, the way that you were handling it during the time is like, and those nuances would also affect how Miss Stephanie Sue was feeling and things and such like that, which obviously and clearly they were. But to see now, that boy's all in the past and is being relitigated. So now we're back up here now. But within that, obviously, we do need to see if Stephanie Sue is going to respond to this, because I cannot lie, like I just came off of saying, some of these Jones do look hypocritical on the girly pops part. But I would also say to this, like, yeah, all of this is like in the past. So even if Stephanie Sue does come out and apologize for this, John, like what does it do now since she's so focused on like Rotten Mango and like the Diddy trial and all this type of jazz? And then, you know, Nikocado Avocado's got his own content and stuff going on. So like rehashing this drama and turning this John into a whole nother thing, like I doubt this, I'll tell you for sure, doesn't do anything good for both of their careers. That I'll tell you for sure. If a whole nother big beef happens between them, culminating off of this, like, yeah, that's not going to do well. So I'm genuinely curious to see what is going to come of this. And we're going to have to see. Will Miss Sue respond? We'll see if it happens. But other than that, again, shout out to Love of Babes, Miss Spillsash. And I'll be catching y'all on the flip, baby. Peace.